A recent video on Habs TV recently revealed the prospect rankings of the 2019 NHL Draft for the Montreal Canadiens, as well as a trade offer that almost happened between Montreal and Vegas. We'll discuss that, plus some other Habs trade rumors coming up next. So welcome back here to Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we had a recent video come out on Habs TV, which may have accidentally leaked some information that they may not have wanted to have made public here. This video had footage from the 2019 NHL Draft at the draft table of the Montreal Canadiens, focused on Marc Bergevin, Trevor Timmins, and other members of their staff, discussing a potential trade offer that was coming in from the Vegas Golden Knights, and as a result as well, based on the camera angles, kind of accidentally showed their draft rankings here. So before we get into the potential trade, I want to take a look here at how the Habs had these prospects ranked heading into the 2019 NHL Draft. Now, based on what can be made out on the piece of paper that was handwritten and had a lot of names written down here in order, this is, it looks like, the potential way that the Habs had these prospects ranked. Obviously, number one, they had Jack Hughes, who was drafted in that spot. They had Kaapo Kakko at number 2, who went to the Rangers. No big surprise there. They had Trevor Zegras at number 3. Obviously, he went down a fair bit lower, but Zegras was a highly ranked prospect by many teams. Interesting to see how they felt about him. They had Bowen Byram going at number 4, which he actually did to the Avalanche. They had Alex Turcotte going next at number 5. They had Peyton Krebs ranked at number 6. Matthew Boldy next up, followed by Vasily Podkolzin, Kirby Dach, and then Cole Caulfield at number 10. They also had some additional names listed there as well, which are a little bit harder to make out, but I'll show you what it believes to be here between 11 and 15. It looks as though at 11 they had Moritz Seider, who obviously jumped up and went higher to the Detroit Red Wings. Looks as though they had Dylan Cousins at number 12. Philip Broberg at 13. At number 14, it's not quite clear. It's really hard to make out who they had listed, but it looks as though number 15 appears to have been Arthur Kaliev. Now, as we know, Montreal ended up picking Cole Caulfield in this draft, but right before they were scheduled to pick, they did receive a phone call, which is completely shown here on the Habs TV video. Shows GM Marc Bergevin getting a call from the Vegas Golden Knights, who were picking 2 spots behind them at 17. He basically offered the Habs a chance to move back 2 spots, swap places with Vegas, in exchange get that pick as well as an additional 3rd round pick, which they ultimately declined. At that point, based on their list here, they had the option of taking a couple players that they probably did not expect to be there based on their draft rankings, being in Peyton Krebs and Cole Caulfield. As we know as well, Peyton Krebs suffered an Achilles injury not too long before the draft, and it might have scared off a few teams, including Montreal, because it looks as though they had Krebs ranked higher than Caulfield, so it makes you think that that's probably the reason why they decided to go with Cole Caulfield. Now, hearing a lot of the other guys around the table talk about Caulfield, and you can see as well Claude Julien stomps by, and they're kind of filling him in on what kind of player they think he is, what he is now, and that kind of information about the player. Looks as though they were quite high on him, see him as being a goal-scoring machine at the NHL, and just couldn't pass up the opportunity. Of course, Montreal has a history of drafting some smaller players and having a lot of success, and obviously they were not afraid to make that selection. So I'd love to know your opinion from a Habs fan perspective. If you had the opportunity to go back to this draft and move back 2 spots, maybe get Peyton Krebs instead of Cole Caulfield, switch places with Vegas, get an extra pick. Obviously, a 3rd round pick is certainly by no means guaranteed to be an NHL player. Could turn out to be a pretty decent prospect, but then again, it might not pan out to be anything. Would you make that move to get the extra pick and the extra prospect into your system? Or do you keep your selection, stick to your guns, and go up there and select Cole Caulfield like they already did? I'd love to know what you think down below in the comment section here. Now Montreal Canadiens head coach Claude Julien has kind of stirred things up a little bit more with some more additional Habs trade rumors recently with an interview with TVA Sports, indicating that they may not be done setting their roster and that they might be having additional moves made before the season gets underway. He didn't really allude to anything specific, but it makes you wonder what the Habs might be working on here and kind of in the background behind the scenes. Obviously, they might be looking at the forward group, could they be looking at the defense core? There's a couple interesting names out there still in the free agent market, including defenseman Jake Gardiner, who at one point was linked more to the Montreal Canadiens. Of course, we discussed many times now that Gardiner, many believe, has a handshake agreement in place with at least one NHL team, basically with the indication that they need to free up some cap space to sign him. Very well could be a short-term deal, and that maybe he's just kind of waiting for the right moves to take place. But obviously, if that's the case, there is some risk on his side involved, because if they don't make those necessary moves, he may not get his contract and very well might end up losing money out because of it, depending on where else he ends up going or signing or whatever else happens here. But that very well might be the case, because as we know, the left side of the defense of the Habs is an area that they really need to focus on. They have made some other improvements to it throughout the season already, so it certainly might not be a Jake Gardiner type of situation, but I can't help but wonder what other moves they might be working on. Of course, we already seen them try to go after Sebastian Aho via offer sheet. Could they be going down that route again? I guess it is possible. There's a ton of RFAs out there, but seeing now that they have a lot more limited cap space than they did when the Aho offer sheet went out, it's highly doubtful that they're going down that route, but they might have some plans in place to shed some other salary should they be successful. Now, they've also been linked to Patrik Laine of the Winnipeg Jets. There's been a lot of talk that Laine and the Jets certainly have some big issues and that maybe he won't be returning to Winnipeg. And if they did look to trade him, a team like Montreal has been linked to him in the rumor mill quite substantially. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Hard to say how far those talks have ever gone or what has actually taken place. But based on what's been in the rumor mill, it certainly wouldn't be shocking to see them make another big, bold move here to try to land themselves another top young player. Based on the fact that they've added a ton of center prospects recently, a guy like Laine would probably fit quite nicely with them. So could it be that? Could they maybe looking to sign Gardiner? What area of the team do you think Montreal most needs to address going into the season based on what other things they've done throughout this offseason? So what do you think Claude Julien could be alluding to, and will we actually see the Habs make more moves here before the season and training camp gets underway in a few weeks' time? Of course, as always, want to know what your thoughts are down in the comment section, and we can continue the conversation. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it as well. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time.